Yeah, thank you so much. Yeah, thank you for having me. I'm so happy to be here. I mean, we're so close, right? But we don't interact that much, so this is a really good occasion, I think. So thank you very much. Like Colleen said, I work at the Archaeology Data Service. I'm a postdoctoral research associate is my title now, and I also have a PhD in assyriology. So today I'm going to talk about two projects, but before I get to them, we'll take maybe half of the talk to contextualize. So one of these projects is just ending now. The other one is starting in June. But first I will introduce the Cuneiform script and also the main initiative at heart of these projects I'm going to talk about. So the cuneiform script was invented around 3200 BC, and it's born in Iraq and spread to neighboring countries, so Syria, Turkey, Iran, and beyond. And cuneiform was inscribed on bricks, monuments, cylinder seals, but mostly clay cuneiform tablets, like the one you see in the middle. This one actually has a clay envelope around it, so it's like a lump of clay wrapped with more clay. And most of these tablets are actually administrative documents. And so Cuneiform recorded 1,000 languages over its 3 millennia of existence, mostly Sumerian and Akkadian. And as you can see, cuneiform signs have changed a lot over this very long period of time. It started with pictograms or ideograms, and it evolved. They first were drawn in, and then they were impressed. And so they became more and more abstract to facilitate writing faster. And so this script was used to inscribe a wonderful array of genres, from literary masterpieces to student exercises, admin texts, but also rule inscriptions, mathematical texts, and others. So there's really a lot of types of texts that were written using the cuneiform script, again, in all these languages and over this really long period of time. And so there's many projects and repositories that collect information about these texts and their medium. And unfortunately, in this large ecosystem, we find mostly unconnected islands or really like maybe directional chains, if you'd like, something we have to work on as a domain. And one of these projects is the Cuneiform Digital Library Initiative. It's a 28-year strong project, and it's really an international scholarly cooperation that works on digitizing, creating, preserving, and analyzing the digital information from these artifacts. And so we collect metadata, linked to external projects and vocabularies also, text and text annotations, images, and also image annotations. And this is true for artifacts inscribed with the cuneiform script, but we also collect a few more artifacts that are related to the domain of writing cuneiform, even if they're not themselves written. So for instance, cylinder seals that are anepigraphic, or lumps of clay that have been rolled on with a seal, that sort of thing. So we have like a bit of a larger scope than just the script itself. And of course, we do this in the first place for research. So we want to accumulate the data to be able to use it to ask questions and research our ideas. And the most important part of CDLI is really the catalog, so the metadata. And when I say metadata, it's actually not just metadata, it's actually data. It's just because this really focused on the text, right? So extraneous data to the text is considered metadata to the text, but it's actually real data about the medium on which the text is written. And that's really important at CDLI. A lot of the projects that are in the ecosystem I showed are really only focused on the text, and they don't collect information about the medium. So the text is completely disconnected from its actual materiality. So the most important is the catalog, because without the catalog, you already know there's nothing you can do. And then we also, so the main activity of CDLI over the years has been digitizing missions in museums around the world. Examples would be like, the Penn Museum or the Louvre, the British Museum, and also actually in the Middle East. And some of the images we have are of objects that have been destroyed since then. So the collection of images we have is really important for the study of cuneiform. And then, so the catalog, then the images, and then the text is also equally important for research. But again, this ecosystem I was talking about also works a lot on text in different areas. So we think there's about 500,000 or more artifacts in public and private collections around the world. And in CDLI right now, we have about 430,000, I think. I'll have to check. The numbers go up frequently. And so our catalog contains about that amount of records. And 1/3 of the artifacts in the database are imaged. And some artifacts have more than one image attached to them, but about 1/3 have at least one image. And this also represents about 2.65 million translated lines of text, or actually more now, because this is some numbers from 2016, I think. So that's like a long time. So I should do another calculation of that. So CDLI is composed of a lot of people. There's 4 directors. There's me, but there's also Jacob Dill, who is professor at Oxford, and also Bertrand Lafont, who is a colleague at the CNRS, and Jürgen Renn, who I think I have to update that one too. He's now director of the Max Planck Institute for Geoanthropology in Vienna. And together we manage the initiative, and we also have 7 associates, and now 31 collaborators and many, many contributors. And including Madeline and Nathan are sitting in the room here. They're currently working on improving quality of some of our data. So they're part of the contributors of this data set at this time. And so aside from funded digitization or projects that helped us like accumulate data, there's a large portion of the data we have in CDLI that's been contributed completely voluntarily. So as part of projects, or just like when researchers have data to share. And this has been done by a mix of top scholars in the field. Oops, I forgot. Undergraduate students, special collection librarians, especially for metadata. We collaborate a lot with small collections. And also, even like there's a small proportion of our collaborators that are interested, people from the public, and they're just like they skilled up in ancient languages, and their skill are good enough to provide this data with us. We have about 200 people that are registered for crowdsourcing. They don't all share data with us, but I'd say on a weekly basis, I think we have maybe 4 or 5 different people that submit something different. We have 14 editors. They're not all active at all times. Let's say that there's again 4 or 5 editors that are active more frequently. And we have 5 admins that have like full access to manage everything. In terms of traffic, I'm giving numbers from 2024 because at the end of 2025, there was the scourge of the AI bots that came in with the rotating IPs, and they're a bit hard to weed out from the logs. So those numbers are more conservative and should reflect more of the sort of, because sometimes we have like 2 million hits per day. So that's not reflective of like actual people using it. So in 2024, we had about 200,000 visitors, which is a lot. These are unique visitors. And of course, some of those could be like the same person coming again 2 months later with a different IP, but it's pretty close to the numbers. And that equates to about 2 million page views, which is also really high. And we had 12,000 edits submitted. And that includes not just text, it's also like little points of metadata, which are all useful actually. But it looks like a big number. But if you look at the whole thing, it's impressive, but it's not like a huge amount compared to all the data we've accumulated so far. But there's always progress. Like every year we collect more data. Our resource network changes a lot all the time. This is the last version. So our current server, the main server where we have our data, is at the GWDG in Germany, and this is provided to us through the Max Planck Institute of Geoanthropology. They also do they have their master backups actually also. And at the University of Oxford, we also have a set of backups, and we have virtual machines in standby in case like something explodes in Germany. The Getty is also doing full backups of our data. And we're building a relationship together with ADS, and slowly we're like finding ways to support CDLI in our activities. And especially, for instance, in hosting the project I'll talk at the end, which is really wonderful. And so at Digital Research Alliance of Canada, we also have our knowledge base that is hosted there. So the Sparkle endpoint is in Toronto, actually. So this is a heat map of provenance of artifacts in CDLI. Almost 1/4 of the artifacts have not don't have an associated provenance, so they won't show on this map. So we don't know where they come from. Or we might know, but maybe at the regional level, and we don't have that in the database. Almost 7% of artifacts with a provenance is a provenance that doesn't have a known location. So we know the ancient place name, but we don't know where that is. And I must say that a very large proportion of artifacts that we have where we know where they come from, the reason why we know is not because they were found in situ, but because we have the text impressed on the tablet, and we can read the text and understand, oh, this guy, oh yeah, he lived there with that other guy, you know? So, and actually that's an avenue of research that I would really like to pursue, and it connects to our ideas about object itineraries. Right now in the database, we don't indicate clearly how we decided the provenance of an artifact. And for a researcher in the field, it's kind of easy to know, like, you know, oh yeah, this was looted so much, like for sure, like this is not from in situ, right? But if you come from outside the field, you can't know. And that's really bad for understanding the context of the data. So what does CDI offer? We offer like tons of things, but I'm just going to focus on a few things because I want to try to go towards the theme of access. So we have really rich metadata. It's focused on text, like I told you before, but we also collect a lot of information about the artifacts themselves. And we also collect the information about the contribution of this data now, which we did before, but we're doing it better now. We also offer digital resources. So again, the large digital library of images. And so again, our catalog is the most comprehensive in the field. We have an extensive bibliography that we're cleaning up right now. Also, yes, we have detailed entity records for a lot of other entity types that are related to artifacts. So like artifact types or materials, for instance. And we offer plenty of services. One of them is the crowdsourcing service, but we also have natural language processing tools that are available online. So this was my entry into access. So I want to say that at CDI, we really focused on access. So open access, open data, and also like all the code base of anything that we've produced is open. And for access to humans, the interface is a lot more friendly than it was before. It's also like everything is free. There's no login to get in. You can easily access any data without logging in. Licensing information is available when possible. Also, we have a search and a browse, and in the search, we now have filters, which have been like life-changing for everyone that uses it. And also, you can download data from any of these pages. So if you search something, then you can download the current page of your search results. If you're browsing and you're looking at artifact types, you can download the artifact types. And this in all these formats that you see on the screen right now. So we have like flat, simple formats that are easy for people to read. We also actually have a TXT version, even for some entities, so it's easier for people to get to some complex structured formats. And so this, also we have an API and an API client, and also the sparkling point, which I will mention again in a few slides. And so we really have a focus on access. Like that's been like a big driver in some changes we've made. And most of it was for scholars in the first place. And then we included also scientists working with natural language processing. So this is what an artifact page looks like. Again, there's no login, and then you can just browse and download. So I won't do a demo because I don't think we'll have the time, but if anybody's interested in a demo, let me know. I'm super happy to show you like more about CDLI at another time, or if we have time later. I'll just show screenshots for now, unfortunately. Yes, so at CDLI, we create internal domain-specific control vocabularies that are based on the history of our domain, actually. So the terms we use come from like specialists in the field, but also like curators, art historians. And so we have this large group of vocabularies that we're using, but we also match those to external vocabularies as much as we can. And so for geographic data, we use Pleiades and geonames, and then for periods, periodo, and then more generally, we use Wikidata. And also for Getty, we use it for material. Now we have just mapped artifact types and motifs on seals. So that's been a new addition. We also link to external resources, even if they're not like actual linked data, because we think it's important to act as a hub so people can actually reach out to other resources that discuss the same artifacts. So for instance, a lot of collections or projects will have landing pages for artifacts. So we just link back to those so people can go and find more information about those. And so we also have a knowledge graph, like I told you, it's hosted in Toronto. And we have most of our data in there, not all of it. So we hope to include credits and image annotations. So image annotations are already in RDF format, actually, so we just need to put them in the graph. For the credits, we need to create a mapping, but that shouldn't be too much work. We just have to do it. So we're very excited about that. We don't really have a lot of consumers of the using the graph, but it's there. And I think this actually shows our dedication to access, just because we know this is like 5-star data, but definitely there's only a few consumers of that sort of data source. So again, like coming back to access, so actually, who is this access for, right? So we focused strongly on access by Western scholars. So the way everything is organized has been made in the first place for them. So Sumerologists or people doing like Mesopotamian studies and history, they want to access the text. This is perfect for them. Now we've developed a whole array of services to access by machines, which are of course used by humans, but there's a specific group of specialists that are using that. And everything is actually in English. And so you can see here translations of text that we have. We really have a few only. So remember how many texts we have in there? And there's only 5,500 that are translated to English. So it's not even accessible if you need to know the original languages if you want to access the text themselves. So the metadata is kind of accessible to anyone. It's in English, and but for the text themselves, it's a real issue. So actually, all of our efforts that costed so much effort and money towards access, it looks great on paper, and it's also great in practice, but for specific audiences only. And also, if you just look inwards mostly. Yeah. So to further access to Cuneiform heritage in new ways, we have developed a new project. Well, it was new, but it's a short one. A new project called Access to Cuneiform Texts. So before I give the details about it, I'll just show the people in charge. So co-PIs are Haida Hakil and Jafar Joteri from University of Al-Qadisiyah in Iraq. There's also Rune Ruttenborg at Lund and myself. And we're supported by Malat Feda, and who's also at Al-Qadisiyah, and Lars Filigagen, who's the lead developer at CDLI. And also we have had help from translators and a colleague who also speaks Arabic to help us with some of the work. So we got funding for about 20,000 in total from the British Institute for the Study of Iraq, the Astrology group in Wilson College at Oxford, and Mediter Trust, and also some anonymous donors actually. We have a crowdfunding platform, and some funds come in sometimes, and that really helped. So this specific project, the objective was to enable better access to cuneiform heritage for Arabophones. So we decided, because we didn't want to have a large project, we wanted to have a short, impactful project. So we chose 2 specific tasks that we thought were the most impactful that we could run to get this done. So first, we decided to translate the interface to Arabic. So it's like the container, not the content, but you can navigate everything now in Arabic based on the work we've done. We also translated not all, a large proportion of our vocabularies that we use to classify the artifacts. So we converted those to Arabic, and we also linked some to the AET while we were doing that, because we had to do research to make sure we understood the meaning of these terms. And as part of the project, we also decided to build capacity with our Iraqi partners. So we actually went to Iraq and we had workshops in 4 different universities, and we showed them the CDLI, and they already used it. So they were really thrilled to see that we made the Arabic interface. And they confirmed that the English language that was used in CDLI was not helpful to them at all. So we're very happy that we went ahead with this. And we hope that we're starting a sort of a digital repatriation of this heritage. Yes. Yeah, we also had like workshop before going to Iraq. We had workshops online with our colleagues and additional participants to translate the vocabularies that we're using. So just an example of the terms that we've translated, and also the Arabic interface of CDLI. So this is deployed now. So if you go on cdli.earth, and you click on the little logo that looks like it's going to translate things, choose Arabic, and then everything is going to appear in Arabic. So this project is really close to ending, actually. We've done most of the work. So the next phase for this specific project would be to look into other languages, like Turkish, for instance. However, at this point, we really want to consolidate our new relationship with Iraqi colleagues. So we want to focus on nourishing this relationship, strengthening it, and making sure that our colleagues can really use it. But the way we made those changes into the CDLI, it's possible. Like if someone wants to come in and start doing translations in other languages, it's possible. So we're very, very proud of this work, and we hope we can move to other languages in the future. So now I'm going to talk about Towards Universal Access to Cuneiform Heritage Program. So it's a program of 4 projects that just got funded. And that's actually why I'm here now, because I want to talk to you about this project. So here's the staff. We're starting in June, so the full staff is not assembled yet. So we have Dr. Christy Carr, who's one of the 2 postdocs that's going to work on the project. And then Lars Villegagen and Tim Belfla are contractors on the project that are helping us. And of course, there's me. And we're currently looking for an Arabic first language postdoctoral researchers to join us. So the ad is still up until the 2nd. I'm very excited to see who applied. We're also going to be looking for a front-end developer probably towards the end of the 2nd year of the project. And we're also going to have additional support from student assistants, and maybe if we needed some translators, additional translators. And so we're very, very lucky that the Meditor Trust generously funded this project, this program. So these are the advisors on the project. I put some purple so it's more flashy. So you recognize some of the faces maybe. So some of them are my co-directors at CDLI, and the others are from the other project that I just mentioned. So the new faces are at the bottom right. Christian Chiarcos is actually a computational linguist who was part of the machine translation and automated analysis of cuneiform languages project. So he's going to support us with deploying the tools that we've built in the past for this project. I'll talk a bit more about that. Nicole Brich is a specialist of Sumerian literature. And Steve Tinney is also into natural language processing, but he's also an expert in Sumerian language, and he's built like numerous tools in the area. So all these people are going to support us, but I think I'm going to add quite a few more people. We still have time. I mean, it's an eclectic project in a way, so I think the more the merrier. There's a quick graph of showing like the links of the different universities that are involved, including the advisors, and University of York is right in the middle of Germany, Sweden, Iraq, and also France and in the UK. So like I said, it's a 3-year project. It starts in June. And the general objective really is to further remove barriers to access to cuneiform heritage. And we're really going to focus on the general public and Arabic-speaking individuals, but the scholars will still be served. So we're going to develop features also for scholars, actually, as part of this. And so there's 4 different projects that are part of the program, and I gave them cute names. So the first one is Sumerian Literature Revived, and then the second one is Cuneiform in Translation Arabic, and Cuneiform for Everyone, and Cuneiform Commons. And I mean, I say cute because they sound better than the general title of the program, but that's how it is. Like the projects that get funded are the ones with the ugly names. So I'll just keep doing it. Yeah. So before I dive into the first project, I will first introduce another project on which this project is resting on. So the main source for the past 20 years to understand Sumerian literature has been the electronic text corpus of Sumerian literature. So this is a project at Oxford. It's a digital corpus of all the Sumerian literature, or almost all of it. And it started in 1997. It was funded for 9 years. And main funding came from the Leveling Trust and from the predecessor of the HRC, which is called the Arts and Humanities Board, which some of you might know. So it was funded for 9 years, so it took them 9 years, and it was a good team of specialists to go through all of the Sumerian literature to publish it this way. Key personnel were the late Dr. Jeremy Black, Eleanor Robson, who just retired from UCL, Gabor Soliomi. There's quite a few other scholars, I won't name them all, but they all deserve like tremendous credit. So because this is at Oxford, I was at Oxford just before, so can I check the logs to see like how many visits you get? I think I asked in 2020, and I got logs from 2016. I didn't ask questions, I just had data, so I was happy. So I checked the average, and the site, so 10 years ago, was getting 1,000 unique visitors a day and 20,000 page views. So that's huge. Those are huge numbers. And the reason why is that people are just really excited about like Sumerian literature. They're interested into the translations. They can't read the original text, right? So and these texts really resonate with people, and they feel ancient also at the same time. So I mean, there's a huge interest. So ETCSL published nearly 400 compositions, and it really covers a wide array of literary genres. It's like a subset of those I showed at the beginning. I put some excerpts here, but it's so rich. It's really nice. Like if you have time, you should go check it out, like just like an evening, and check out what they have. It's really beautiful. So they have transliterations, translations. They also have linguistic annotations that have been prepared in TI XML, of course, because it was at Oxford. They also have a separate glossary and a huge bibliography, and all of this is available in open access also, not just on the site, but also as a data dump. So this text I'm showing here, the Balbaletun English, we also have it on CDLI. So we have the photo here and the line art. And so each of these texts also have records at the CDLI. So the way it works at ETCSL is that they're preparing composites of texts, which means that they look at cuneiform tablets that are witnesses to a specific composition, and then they study them together, and then they create a version that is a version that could have been the one that people had in mind when they wrote their witness, if that makes sense. So that's what's published on ETCSL. They don't publish the separate texts. They publish the version that's everything together. In CDLI, we have both. We have the composites and we have witnesses. So we've done a lot of work already, like connecting them together and prepare the translations of the individual witnesses, but there's still tons of work to do to, collect all this data and connect it properly. So the one I just showed before, there's just one text, so there's one witness. So the composite version is just the same. But in this case, for instance, in his journey to Nippur, there's like 70 witnesses. So like they don't represent the whole text. So you have to piece where in the text it comes, and it's a lot of work. Yeah, so this is a big part of the research when you do Sumerian literature research. So in the first project of TUA, we'll be looking at ETCSL because, well, first the interface is aging, and then second, there's new witnesses found like every year. So this corpus is like 20 years old now. So there's a lot of work to do to catch up with the content. So in the project, we want to preserve and integrate and disseminate further the data of the ETC cell project. So we'll ingest everything, and then we'll also update and improve the material based on the last decades of scholarship, basically. So just the bibliography, the transliterations, the annotations, the translations, and we'll link the witnesses with the composites, but then we'll also create the transliterations for the witnesses that don't have them yet in digital form. And we'll annotate those also. And then people will be able to look at the scores. So the scores are when you see the different variation from the witnesses under the master line from the composite, so you can study those texts. Yes. And so, like I said, we've done already extensive work in that area at CDLI, but like it's done like piecemeal when someone's interested in one text and that sort of thing. So, with this project, we'll be able to go through everything in a comprehensive way, in a structured way. And so, beside the extensive work in cataloging and linking witnesses and intertranslations and all of that, much of our linguistic annotation work will depend on the outputs of the machine translation and automated analysis of cuneiform languages project, which Christian Sharkos, I showed you the photo of earlier, was one of the PIs. Because also Heather Baker at the University of Toronto was the director of this project. So in this project, we developed tools for the automated analysis of Sumerian in particular, but we created tools that were potentially reusable for Akkadian also, because we want to work with all cuneiform languages. And so we'll use these tools to help us more speedily annotate the witnesses while we work on spreading the information that we've collected to the witnesses. So this means that actually, to accommodate this project, we don't need to do a lot of changes to the CDLI itself, because we already have almost all the infrastructure in place, which is great. Okay, the second project, so we have 4, is Cuneiform in translation Arabic. So in CDLI Act, which I presented just before, we translated the form, so like the interface. Now we need to translate the content. So as you saw, so we have very little content in English, right? So I think at the end of this project, we'll have a lot more translations to Arabic than we even have in English, and this is really wonderful. So you might ask, why would you translate all this ancient literature to Arabic? So the primary sources that we're reading, they're dispersed in 100 collections around the world, but they actually originate from the Middle East, and most Middle East countries, people speak Arabic. So these artifacts that come from there are somewhere else, and they don't have access to it, right? Also, Western scholars publish only in Western languages. So again, there's another barrier. Like my Iraqi colleagues, most of them don't consider themselves English speakers. So imagine French and German. And also Arabic speakers, again, they don't have a lot of access to resources in English, even like the other digital resources that are out there for studying those texts. And there's not really digital infrastructure in Arabic. It's really minimal. So this project will create the first large digital edition of translations to Arabic. There are some out there, however. For instance, in the ORAC project, which I will discuss a bit after, there's quite a few texts that were translated to Arabic, but it wouldn't be to that scale. And so we've selected, our selection of texts is focused on Sumerian and Akkadian literature, and covering like many periods and places, but really focused on literature, just because that's what the general public is more interested in. So I'm like an admin text person, so we will do a few of those. But this is really a project to serve our like Iraqi people and to serve like the general public. And yeah, so but then they'll create infrastructure and the momentum to do more if we're interested. So we hope to do about 70,000 lines of text translated, and this will be done in 3 registers. So for scholars, we do line-based translation, so it's easier for students mostly to understand what's going on. Then paragraph-based, you get more of the meaning out there. And then a fully conscious flow translation for full understanding by the general public. So with these 3 different types of translations, we'll be able to to engage with different audiences, actually. We'll also have electronic glossary of the linguistic annotations that will accompany the texts. And we'll also, some of the text actually, probably not all of them. And we're also going to develop, I mean, not me, but the postdoc that will be first language Arabic, will develop methods and guidelines for translations to Arabic, specifically for these ancient languages. And so we, oh yeah, we will also, so we're not just focused on the text, but so for the metadata, we have most of the fields translated now because they're controlled vocabularies, but there's tons of other fields that are like free fields, right? So we'll do an analysis of which are the most recurring expressions and words, and we'll translate those and create a translation for those. So we won't do everything, and we'll have to, we'll be like one automatic pass and one like human checking pass. But I think this will actually increase a lot of access to this information. So these are just really quick examples of the potential corpus to translate. So the postdoc will pick and choose impactful pieces they think is interesting. And my colleague Bertrand Lafont is currently selecting some of the text. So the letter from Marie, for instance, trying to find like the most interesting pieces to translate. And so we hope to be able to produce 2 or 3 critical editions of like long compositions. It's the same for the first project also, because in these projects, we won't be able to go as deep as if you do like a full study of the text. So you have to rely more on the secondary literature. However, we will still rely on the original text, of course, but we won't be able to do like a full study of them. The goal is to produce a lot of translations based on what we know of these texts now. And again, we'll adapt the tools of the MTAC project for Acadian. And so in this case, we have colleagues that have already worked in this area. So people at ORAC, but also in Helsinki, there's a big group that does natural language processing of Acadian. For instance, Alexis Sahala. And so we're going to walk in their footsteps and learn about how they did things, and we can adapt their work to use in our systems. So we're going to produce lots of translations. How to present that material to different audiences? Enters Cuneiform for everyone. So
would you like 5 more minutes so we have some questions?
Oh, okay. Okay, so for Cuneiform for everyone will be the project about redesigning an interface for the general public. So I won't go in detail because we don't have a lot of time, but basically we're going to create a second interface to CityLight that will be geared only for the general public, so people can instantly find what they're actually looking for and not have to, fiddle in searches that have no meaning to them. And this will help us present the new translations to them. And the last project, which is more technical, I won't go into detail either, but I wasn't planning to, which is a good thing, is about interoperability with the other members of this ecosystem I was talking about. And we're really going to focus on our relationship with ORAC. And then I'm just going to show the ORAC. So this is the open, richly annotated corpus, Cuneiform corpus, and it's a digital edition platform. And our closest, the closest other repository / project in that area, and we're going to strengthen those links with them. Okay, so with the TWAM project, we really hope to build an ecosystem for access. So in a nutshell, we want to actualize access to the Sumerian corpus, provide better access to Cuneiform heritage for selected audiences, but in particular, we'll focus on Arabic speaking and the general public. And again, we have a strong commitment to open access, open source, and we'll preserve all of our output through archiving at ADS, which is really great. And so again, just in a few words, I think we're going to greatly increase data available in this area, and we'll just provide better ways to accessing this data. Okay, so what I presented is really strongly based on practice. Like we've been running this for 28 years, and so we're like really deep into it. And so if we take a step back, I would like to reflect with you and ask some questions, and you don't need to answer now, like it's just like to think. But in particular, so the A in fair access is really a multifaceted and complex challenge, I think. And so I partially explained how we enable access at CDLI, but and through projects. So my question to you would be, how much does access depend on context? And I want to give a really quick example. We've always tried to keep our footprint as minimal as possible so the page could load fast anywhere in the world. But when we were in Iraq, actually, sometimes the site wouldn't load at all just because the government just like shut down the DNS sometimes, right? So have you thought of that? Yeah, right. And so also, how can we include a level of cultural accessibility in our digital projects? I think that's a difficult one. And I think language is not enough, actually. So something to think about. And then concerning digital repatriation, that's a term that might exist already, but it's Jafar Joteri who brought it. He said, actually, our project is like, it's a sort of a digital repatriation. So from what you've heard today, do you think we're actually in a process of digital repatriation? Like, is that happening? And then if it is, like what's actually the value, especially when you're thinking about how disconnected this work is from the actual objects and the relationship of museums with the Syrian government, for instance, or the Iraqi government. So just to have that on your mind. And just really quick thanks to the CI community, the contributors, the funders, the sponsors. I showed all their logos before, so you can go back. The co-directors of CDLI, without whom I couldn't do this. Also the CDLI Act co-PR, which really opened up the door to all of this amazing new work. Especially, I want to give a shout out to Runa Rattenborg, who's been phenomenal in driving this with us. And also big thanks to Lars Villigagin, our lead developer, and also our other collaborators.
Thank you so very much, Emily. That's really, really appreciated. Does anybody in the room or online have any questions? What are witnesses?
What are witnesses? So, so you have like individual clay tablets on which some text is inscribed, and some of these texts are literary texts, and they actually occur in more than one tablet. Sorry, and so those are witnesses to a composite or a composition. So you'd have like a master scribe who would like dictate to his students, and they would write on the tablets. So the composite is actually the composition that's in his mind. And sometimes they will copy tablets to tablet, but most of the texts we have, it seems that they were copied from memory or from dictation. So those are witnesses to those compositions. Yeah.
So you've been running the CDLI for quite a long time. I was just wondering, because obviously there's a lot of interest in the room about creative reuse. And so could you have any like particularly outstanding examples that you have of creative reuse of the CDLI?
So the data that we
Yeah.
Okay, so that's a good question, and at the same time, it's one that really hurts me.
Oh, no,
Because
sorry.
no, I will tell you why. CDLI is really a research infrastructure now in our field, right? And so it's been treated like a tertiary source. So a lot of people are actually reusing a lot of our data all the time, but they don't credit us ever.
Yeah.
Like it's really rare. So there's some scholars that will take the time, like they publish a paper and they say, like, I use CDLI to get the data, and then my outputs are based on this. But most of the time, they will just grab the data and not say it's from CDLI. And you can tell because sometimes they copy verbatim the text, So that's my answer.
But like beyond researchers, like artists or writers or anybody else.
So I have a colleague who actually she has a PhD in anthropology like me, but she's also a writer, and she published a white public book, and it's super acclaimed. Yeah. And so that's an example. She created a narrative where it talks about a museum, and then you go through like history and through the objects, and it's really beautiful. So there's actually a lot of writers that use CDLI for their work. I don't have any like really flashy artsy thing that come to mind though, but there's a lot of scope. So if anybody's interested, the data is there, and I'm very happy to help anyone get to that data actually.
Nothing in the chat. Well, I cut you off too early. Well, thank you so much. We really appreciate this, and we're excited to see how the project goes from here.
Thank you. I'm very excited too.
But I mean, it's like digital repatriation, right? So is it digital repatriation?
Yeah. What do you guys think? Like,
Conversation.
Hmm.
Where people from?
yeah. I mean, it's an Iraqi colleague that said that, but it's
Yeah.
the one Iraqi colleague, right? So what?
Mm.
I mean, all of my colleagues in Iraq seemed really excited about the changes for sure.
Mhm.
And some of them told us like, "Oh wow, it's way too late, but thank you," you know. So,
Yeah.
but yeah, I think they're very excited about it. I'm not sure if they consider it as digital repatriation though. It's a big leap to think. Yeah.
Okay.
I just had a question regarding your Iraqi colleagues. Do they, how do Iraqi colleagues I know I've spoken to in these countries express an interest in physical repatriation? And if so,
Yeah.
how does kind of digital repatriation aid towards that or alternatively contradict that?
I think it's completely dissociated, to be honest. Government agencies do use the CDLI to track stolen artifacts for sure, and that's one of the reasons why CDLI exists. But it's also used by people that steal tablets and resell them. So, and that's one of the good and bad side of having like an open data set like that. I think, well, I can't speak for my Iraqi colleagues. I know some of them are very vocal about the fact that they would like some artifacts to be repatriated. And I have some colleagues at the Iraqi Museum that are working really hard on like, cataloging all the tablets that are coming in also. So that's encouraging because sometimes we hear that they stay in containers for a while and that sort of thing. Yeah, it's complicated. I think I imagine that the Iraqi colleagues are more interested in physical repatriation than the Western colleagues. But unfortunately, I don't have like a good survey of their thinking in that area. But I could ask. Yeah, it's a touchy question, definitely.
Yeah, I can imagine.
I have a kind of sort of related question.
Yeah.
And I imagine it's very much like how it is in Turkey and Iraq, in that there will be a set of literature, both research and otherwise, in Arabic.
Yeah.
That never makes it to the Western world.
Yep, absolutely.
Just as there is a whole corpus of literature in Western languages that never makes it to the Middle East.
Exactly.
And I think this is actually a really good start of a bridge that is taking the Western world to the Middle East, that can also maybe then take all that corpus of literature back to the West, but in a non-colonialist way.
Yeah, you're right. So the postdoc that's going to do the Arabic work, they're going to use secondary sources that are that are written in Arabic for sure, and not just like translations of text, but also like grammars and that sort, glossaries and so depending on how much time we have, we can start integrating also glossaries that are already used by our Arabic speaking colleagues in Iraq or elsewhere. Yeah, definitely. I mean, it's really exciting to see this bridge form because we were completely living apart. I mean, there's some of my colleagues, especially archaeologists, they're a bit more, friendly. They go and they build really strong relationships and they learn Arabic and it's good. But in our field, there's less of those, especially like in the younger generation. But also we couldn't go to Iraq for a while, which didn't help. Yeah.
Okay. I think that's all we have time for. Thank you very much, Emily. All right, one more round. We'll see you again after Easter for our next digital lunch, which will be announced.